We're a local sustainability nonprofit, and my work really revolves around sustainable neighborhoods. And so what that has looked like has been all over the place, but what it has sort of led me to re-examine is the way that we work together. And in particular, how institutions like the city or nonprofits or the university approach their work with community. And how can we really move into a direction where we're really partnering and we're really seeing the equal value that different partners have. And so this entire day we'll be exploring that and how can we sort of build a network and a learning exchange of people with great ideas and experiences, and how do we really improve participation so that it leads to more well-being overall. So you'll see there's some really fantastic notes up on the board, so thank you, Tina, for taking notes today. If you have any trends or patterns that you see throughout the day, let us know so we can get them on the board. And before we go into the session, I'm going to do a little bit of logistics. So the bathrooms are down that hall. I think there's also a water fountain down there. I will be using my phone as a timer, so don't think that I'm texting during the session. I will be trying to keep the time, and so if I interrupt people, please do not be offended. There are a few people here in the room that I want to thank and share. So Jim and Tom, if you guys want to raise your hand, this is the main people that have been working on this, as well as all of you and your ideas. We've got 2 librarians here in the room. Do you want to raise your hand? They'll be doing live librarying throughout the day, so they'll be taking notes.
Community engagement librarians.
They're 2 community engagement librarians, which is pretty fantastic. This is a new position, I think, within the last 6 months or so that the city has hired you all. Tina will also be taking notes. And then we have a few facilitators throughout the day helping us. So Stephanie's the one who's capturing this right now on photos. Any other facilitators here throughout the day? Julie, Jesse, there's people in and out throughout the day. And then if you did not register for this day, that is totally fine. But I would recommend that you sign in on your way out, because we'll be sending a follow-up email with all this information. And you might be interested in that. And then that email will also have more information that all these brilliant brains may not have time to share in this short time we have this morning. Okay, so before we start, I just want everybody to invite everybody to read the ground rules that we have today. They're pretty straightforward. We want you to have fun, listen deeply, show respect, and step up and step back. What that means is, if you're somebody who usually contributes, often take a time to listen today. And if you are a little shy, enter into the learning zone and speak up a little. So, is there anything I'm forgetting, Jim?
Is everybody okay with those agreements?
Yes, any missing ones?
Anybody want to? And we'll accept it.
All right, thumbs up. Thanks, Shane. Okay, so the other note I want to say is that these are just, 4, and we have an individual from Dubuque here, so we're lucky. Oh, we have a whole team from Dubuque here to help us throughout the day. If you want to wave your hand.
You know what we're gonna do.
So we have 3 different, I guess, departments. I'm not sure how they shake out in Dubuque, but we have human rights and inclusivity, sustainability, as well as community engagement here today from Dubuque. So thank you so much. Okay, so these are just really a small sampling, although a brilliant sampling, of grassroots community leaders that are doing some incredible work. And I know there's other grassroots community leaders in this room, so I want to also appreciate the work you do and know that we are only able to highlight 4 today, and we hope to continue to highlight more work as we continue. So, all right, so I think we're ready to go. So what we're gonna do right now is have an opportunity for each of these individuals to introduce themselves and then share maybe 5 minutes of their work and what they do, specifically thinking about what you have found to be particularly effective in engaging with your community and key challenges to increasing that impact. You ready to start, Rob?
I agree.
All right.
So you got the timer on?
I got it.
Okay. I'm Will Green, and I'm the founder of Mentoring Positives. It's a mentoring program working with at-risk youth in our community. So they have either been adjudicated through the court system or have a touch of mental health diagnosis, or they're about to enter into the system. So I started that about 12 years ago. I lost my mom to breast cancer, and so her name was Beriont, so I created Interim Positive as a way to give back to our community. Coming from Gary, Indiana, #1 murder capital, seen a lot, and just felt like not having a father in my life, wow, could I impact a lot of young youth that look like me. I work for a supervision program, and really what I seen was a lot of African American minority families going through the criminal justice system. And so I had an issue with that. And so when my mom passed, I felt like if I was a mentor in the community, I could hopefully deter some of the children that be going to our system. So for me, I did not know I was landing in a low-income neighborhood, which is Dubuque, which is on the east side of Madison here. This neighborhood has been a challenged neighborhood for 30 years. It's unfortunate because it's only 2 blocks long. So it baffles me coming from Gary, Indiana, this 2 block long radius is a challenged neighborhood for 30 years in a city like Madison, which is the #1 place to live. With that being said, I think for me, the successes we've seen in a neighborhood like that is just grassroots efforts, right? So I make a consistent effort to go out, knock doors, and try to get people involved. I think one of the biggest challenges in our city is that parental involvement. That's one of the biggest challenges every agency in this community have in a challenged low-income neighborhood that I work in. And it's unfortunate because until we figure out how to get more parents involved and more programming for them to be involved in their kids' life, I'm gonna continue to have a job in what I do, and so that's unfortunate. So that's one big challenge. Another thing is, I work with people's kids, so they love me, because their kids go home and say, "Oh man, this program, I love it." And what parent don't really get involved and love you if you're engaging their child in something positive? So I have an upper hand in the neighborhood because we get to stay right there in the neighborhood. So families get to see me like every day. So I'm kind of like the neighborhood Santa Claus. And so what happened is like, well, we're here, and we get to have this community sense of we're here. So I get to see our kids like 6-8 hours a week, not twice a month in our mentoring program. So that's pretty extensive, and that needs to happen because we are always role modeling for our children, and our kids get to see that. My wife works with me in this program, and we have 2 daughters, 12-year-old and a 19-month-old, but the 19-year-old is hooked to my wife's hip, and we are in the work, and it's a dedication that you have to have. I don't think a lot of people understand what you need to give up in this community to be a grassroots leader and go after people and help them in our community. You're going to give up a lot of your life, and I think a lot of people fail to realize that, and it's that important for me. That's just my personal, what I need to give back. And so you have to give up a lot to make sure that you are able to create one of the most important things when you try to engage low-income neighborhoods, and that's building relationships. If you don't build true relationships, then you're not gonna build anything. You don't have a true relationship with a kid in the classroom, you're not gonna wanna learn, right? I've been a SDA in the school, so kids saying they can't do the work, I'm over their shoulder, encouraging them, now they can do the work, right? So we all need a cheerleader. So the last thing is that I went through the sustainability leadership program maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but I ran into something called urban ag, and so I truly believe in gardens and bringing people together. So I have the luxury of being the community center director in Dubuque, and we have a garden there, so I get to engage people in gardening, right? So here I am sitting on the corner, and people can't go by without being like, what's over there, what's going on? And so we have this food which brings everyone together, right? It's a universal thing. You want to have a good function, have some good food. And so that's what brings people together. And what we try to do is give people responsibility in the neighborhood. So I had somebody like taking care of the garden. I had the kids passing out bags of vegetables that was grown, right? So now they feel like they're involved, they have this sense of pride, right? I can give a kid a lanyard in my community center, and wow, they think they are like the best staff ever, right? Just giving them a lanyard. So it's these little things, these little small things that really can impact the neighborhood. And it's a challenge because the people I work with and in this neighborhood, they have no hope. They don't think nothing can change. So my biggest challenge is to get them to the table before any plan is put in place, so they can talk into this plan. I had the luxury of going with FCI to Milwaukee this past weekend, Friday, on a field trip. It was the most amazing thing ever. We went to Sojourner, we went to St. Anne down in Milwaukee, and I walked in those spaces, and I knew that space was felt like from the people. It really did, because I walked in and I got Sojourner troops sitting out here, a statue right in the beginning of this building. You know, the conference room is named after, you know, great people. I walked in another St. Anne's and just got this African art, these African stores, and it was black led, right? So as in Madison, I think one of the things we have to do is like really be intentional about minorities, really be intentional about putting us at the forefront, really be intentional about building our capacity so we can have a sense of pride in this city. So it's not two tales of a city, it's just one city. So.
Thank you.
And then first.
Madison. Okay, we can go Madison people first.
Cool.
Eric?
I wasn't ready for that. My name's Eric Stephen Upchurch II, and I'm from the South Side. Well, I'm not from the South Side, but I live on the South Side, so that's this area for those of you who aren't here. And let's see what we're working on. So I wear a number of different community hats. 5 minutes is definitely not enough for me to name them, let alone explain what they actually involve. But speaking of community engagement, we see the desire happening all over the place whenever there's an initiative, whenever there's a need that arises, or someone has a really great idea, we want to vet it in the community. We say we're going to do community engagement, and that means having a meeting where we go to a place and we invite everyone to come to this place and give us their feedback. And we, and when I say we, it's a group that birthed this thing that we're calling the Council of Communities. We realize that that's not, in ways you're selecting out the folks that you actually want to engage by telling a group of people that have that free time, that have that transportation, that have the means, and are not jaded by whatever area you're in. Maybe if you're going to the city county building, or we had a community engagement thing. The Madison police was doing community engagement all over the city, and we had folks that they needed to speak to but couldn't, because those folks just had way too much anxiety coming anywhere near the image of those that have been perpetrators of violence in their families in traumatic ways. So what does real community engagement look like? And I really appreciate what Brother Will said about having this sense of ownership. The Council of Communities is a form of direct democracy, and it is a way to transparently collaborate with. So let me rewind a little bit. Excuse me. At a meditation retreat in Menominee, I went for 10 days, no silence, no reading, writing, anything like that. And afterwards, a group of us, we could finally speak to each other, and we went to a coffee shop and we said, what is wrong with the world? If everybody would just kind of understand each other, we might be able to get along. And it's not like we don't know that the things that need to happen. There's just this disconnect. And what came out of that conversation was that we realized that there wasn't a solidified, undeniable case for the changes that we wanted to see happen. There wasn't a unified case. There's this study over here, but that study is meant to get this fixture or this tool that this company really wants to see happen. And there's this other study over here, but that study's for this one guy who's really trying to get supporters for his new project. There isn't a transparent, unified case, solid case, for the changes that we need to see happen. And then there's not a centralized collaborative tool for us to actually work those things out. You got silos in a city that is a silo itself. You got silos within the two different cities. So how is it that we can collaborate with each other? And the Council of Communities is that. So we're working with MioSoft, and a host of community organizations that said they want to be a part of this council. And essentially it's individuals. It's not necessarily organizations, but it's the individuals that make up those organizations and that say, I'm a member of this community, I'm a member of the South Side, I'm a member of the community of women of color, of men in this age bracket. And we use that to get their input in 3 different tracks. The first is the question, so the inquiry. What is it that you need? What is it that you want to see happen? What is it that you need to see change? And that's just there, that's input, that's everyone's voice. And then the second is information. So what is it about this thing that people need to know in order to make a decision? So for example, someone in the allied community might say, we need a grocery store here. We need a grocery store in the allied community. And information might say, historically, healthy communities have grocery stores within a certain radius of their residential areas. And then the last is the organizing or the informing piece, where the community at large raises emphasis, agreement, and disagreement on the first 2. And in that way, we can, in a transparent way, distill the will of the community. And the challenge that we're facing now is how do we weight that toward those that are most impacted by whatever issue we want to solve. So collective collaboration, and really quickly, an example of success in this area with the Young Gifted and Black Coalition. I'm one of the founding members, and we went to knock on doors to ask the community what they wanted to see happen with the issue of this $8 million that was going toward a jail. And as a result of that, we got an overwhelming case to say, look, the community that is most impacted, meaning communities of color being 50% of the jail, Black people being 50% of the jail here, as the most impacted, we're saying, look, if you want to really solve the issues that are happening here, we need to take that money and instead invest it in the community. And we were able to interrupt that process and divert some of those resources toward community-led initiatives. So if we can, right on there. So if we can streamline a way to do that, we have a way to talk to each other, and we have a way to see what our needs are, and then we have an overwhelming case to do that thing, as opposed to knocking on doors to vote for somebody that we hope will understand our issues, even if we're not directly connected to our community.
Thanks, Eric. And the email or the website for Council of Communities is being created, and so once it's up and running, we'll send it to everyone whose email is either on that piece of paper or registered or something.
My name's Lexi London, and I have been in Madison for, I think, about 15 years now. I have a background in community art, and so I facilitate art projects to really activate communities and to create change. And I really appreciate what these 2 men said, because it really has taken that real true grassroots effort to make change. I've done community art projects where it's been kind of an artist facilitator going into a community that they're an outsider of and doing projects. And then I've also done projects where it's been all about community input. And then I've done projects where it's been totally grassroots, from the ground up, it's emerged from the community. And that final model has been the most effective. It takes the longest amount of time, it's the most amount of work, it's the most amount of planning, but it has the deepest impact and lasting impact. So it's definitely where all of my energies are going now. The project that we just finished in my neighborhood is called, I live in the Sherman neighborhood, which is on the north side of Madison. It's kind of low, moderate income neighborhood, very working class, very diverse population, but very disconnected. We have 2 major streets that kind of go on either side of the actual neighborhood. And so it's a big neighborhood, but people weren't feeling connected. So me and about 5 other neighbors started to get together and talk about just our yards and art and things like that, wanting to see change in the neighborhood. And those meetings over the course of probably 4 months led to the development of a yard art project, which we then proposed to the city of Madison to get funding for. And we ended up getting about $5,000, and then that spurred the development of workshops where we hired 4 local artists who are expertise. 2 of them were from the neighborhood, and they're experts in sculpture and painting. And then we also hired a construction worker, and then we found a space in the neighborhood to host the workshops. And we basically canvassed our whole neighborhood, the local library, with information about the workshops. They're free of charge. There would be experts, skilled people to help. There would be artist facilitators, and there would be just space where you could store and keep stuff. And the artwork will be part of your front yard, and this will be a display in your space. There was the only stipulation that the work had to be large enough so that people walking, driving, and bicycling by could see it. But there really weren't any other rules or regulations. There was no theme. It was really important to me not to have a theme, because I wanted people to just be able to kind of voice whatever they wanted to voice. It could be issues related to the neighborhood, or it could just be their own a statement about their family or themselves or what they love. And so we ended up getting 26 households. We had space for about 22 households. We ended up getting 26 households with very little work. And people wanted to come for the workshops, the free, and it wasn't sort of art with a capital A. It was really kind of just getting together, socializing, making stuff, and you had the support you needed to create something. And so a lot of the people we had were non-artists, and they came to a series, each came to a series of 3 workshops, and at that time they created really large sculptures, all of them incredibly unique. We had a lot of our materials donated. We bought some materials, and then we had a walking tour. So all the work had to be up by a certain time, and then there was we had one of our volunteer members of the group photographed all the work and created a designed brochure for a walking tour. And then over the course, I think from August to September, maybe even October, you could see groups of people, driving or biking or walking around the neighborhood, checking out all the work. So there were 26 pieces. So our neighborhood kind of became a gallery. And it was amazing. A couple of our neighbors who weren't involved in the project actually held gatherings at their homes, and then their friends went on a tour of the neighborhood to see all of the artwork. So the purpose of the project was really all about connectivity, and we felt that the arts provided a way to encourage people to ask questions, to meet their neighbors, to talk to one another, and to walk, actually, just to move and get around and connect with people. And so by having something unique around the corner, that really changed our whole neighborhood. And the funding helped us, but it wasn't absolutely necessary, and I can talk about kind of the pros and cons of that. The key part in this was that group of 3 to 6 individuals who were committed, and the fact that they had a really diverse skill set. Some of us were more the organizers and the grant writers, others were kind of the real community engagement people, others were super skilled at getting supplies. And so really the fact that we had this diverse group of people and we had this shared goal and passion of wanting to see people talking to each other in our neighborhood. And then the art piece itself, having it be a really fun and engaging project. So I think that's kind of what made this a really successful community engagement piece. Right now I work at Bayview Foundation, which is an affordable housing development for immigrants and refugees in Madison. We're located in downtown Madison. And the primary language spoken there is Hmong, so about 68% of the residents are Hmong, and obviously I'm not Hmong, I don't speak Hmong. But right now my work is all about how to activate and encourage people who have been marginalized and not participating in sort of the affordable housing decision-making, community development and programming piece. How do we get them involved in that piece? So we've been doing a lot of meetings sort of centered around food and just starting to ask people questions and having them being the experts of that process rather than me coming in with ideas or my staff coming in with ideas. It's really, we're trying to tease out what they would like to see and what they would like to be in charge of and responsible for. So a lot of individuals are gardeners. There's a long history of it, and I just found out that within Hmong gardening, tools, they create their own hand tools often, because I was about to buy a bunch of tools and have this sort of gardening and tool giveaway, and then I found out, well, I was totally wrong. Actually, there's only one particular tool that's often used by, and they created themselves. So then we talked about the idea of could we have workshops where some of the elders in our neighborhood could teach kind of how to create and make this tool to the younger generation or people who don't live in the neighborhood. So I'm trying to figure out ways to work with the residents so that they cultivate leadership, so that within the community, so my role is no longer really necessary. It would really emerge from the residents there, and I think that within our system of community engagement, we just absolutely need to shift to individuals and connecting them, having them have conversations, and then letting those issues emerge of what are most important, and then developing new systems of engagement that are fun, that are unique, that are they're just going to look really different. When I've tried to hold committee meetings at Bayview, it's just ridiculous. Like I had decided I would have a senior programming committee, and 18 people showed up for it, which was amazing. And but they just wanted to get together and talk and socialize. There wasn't sort of an understanding that the committee would get together and make decisions.
Give them, anything in the hospital. But what we can do is work in prevention. So I am not a doctor, but I think we can work with the community and with other organizations together to educate our people to improve their habits, their health habits. We would like to see at my community doing more exercise. So in terms of exercise, we have Zumba classes, we have yoga classes, and also we are going to start next month with some walks around the neighborhood, so for 40 minutes. So families will be more than welcome with dogs, with kids, everybody. So for Zumba classes, I think we have a very, very good team, because more than team, they are friends. And we have 10 sessions on Zumba, and after these 10 sessions, they celebrate birthdays, and they bring food, healthy food, they share recipes. So I really like the group that we have now for the Zumba classes. The yoga is just starting, and the work we don't have it so far. We are going to start also on June 7th. You will be more than welcome to start to go to our farmers market. We are going to have Mexican cheese. We're going to have some vendors. One is Mexican and another is American, but all organic products. We are going to some eggs, and we are going to have a woman that is going to make handmade tortillas. She produces her own corn, so everything from scratches. That takes like 2 days. So now we brought her to the Fit Kitchen, so maybe she can start her own business in Fit Kitchen. And another woman also, she's going to start her own business selling in the community, in the farmers market, and also she would like to start selling food for events. So I think Fit Kitchen was right for starting her business. This is for activities. Also, we have wellness doesn't implies body and mind. So we would like to have our community happy. And so we give them some surveys, and according with the surveys, we have the program. So they request sewing classes. So we're going to start with the sewing classes, and we have activities for kids also, and we are going to have nutrition classes, cooking classes, and we have also a community garden. And this community garden, what we would like to do is to have the cooking classes, nutrition classes, but use our own vegetables, hopefully. And the community we would like to have our community more engaged, know more about gardening, because we used to do this, some people used to do this in Mexico or in their countries. But here, because of the time, the lack of time, sometimes they don't know, and because of the weather, we never know what to plant here. But we would like, people start knowing how to do it. some of people of the community have already done that, so they are helping us a lot. Also, we have a composter, and his name is there, I don't remember, sorry, he's helping us with all the compost. We have also a indoor composter for the employees, so we should give an example of what community should do. So we have a sign for all the employees what they should do, and yeah. So in the community garden also we would like to have how to teach people how to create hoop houses, and we are going to have bees also. So the whole community, I really would like to see them involved in our activities. One thing that I have been, our targets are homemakers. They are amazing because they say that they are not leaders, but they are. So when they go to church or they go to, some events, so if they say, oh, Centro Hispano is having this. So suddenly I have a lot of new participants because these moms are talking about us. So when we started, we didn't have them, so it was kind of difficult. The way that we target them is because they're moms and they want 1 or 2 hours for themselves a day. So one very good way to motivate them to come is offering them childcare services. This is very good because they come, they have 1 hour, 2 hours for themselves. This is a challenge also for us because we need to look for the resources to pay for someone that take care of the kids. And also, we need to rely sometimes on volunteers, and sometimes they can go only for 1-2 months and then they leave. So this represents for us an opportunity to grow, but it also is a challenge. Yeah, and that's what we're doing in Centro Hispano.
Thank you. Cori, do you want to take a moment just to briefly explain some of what you do in Dubuque?
Sure. So thank you for having us. I know we're going to talk a little bit today, but our team from Dubuque is really interested in learning from all of you too. So I'm the sustainability coordinator for the city of Dubuque. My background is city management. I tell folks that I really wear 2 hats. One is to work internally with our own departments on sustainability initiatives, and the other is to be a liaison for the community. So our sustainability model looks a lot like the work happening in Madison. Focuses on economic prosperity, environmental integrity, and social cultural vibrancy. So I'm really lucky. The work I do spans from lots of community garden work to economic development to working with schools to arts and culture, you name it. And so as part of that, I get to work with the folks in the back of the room from Dubuque as part of our community engagement team. And that looks different. I think I'll share 3 quick examples of kind of my role in city government and how we are facilitating that community engagement process. The first is one that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and we're actually developing a new commission right now focused on resiliency. So one of my roles, I think, is to kind of be that liaison between the community and government departments. I can't remember which of you said that, within our own organization, we have the silos of these departments. So I try and help folks work across those departments and then understand how we work with the community in that capacity. And the commission's a great example of really trying to bring community members into a policy-making environment and have them help us in that process. I think that's one of our challenges. A lot of times, I think about the first community garden that I worked with that we started, and they wanted to put up a sign because nobody was coming to the community garden. They didn't know it was a community garden. And my job was kind of to go back and forth between the city and the community group. As a city code, at that point, we couldn't have signs on the property. And I completely understood the concept behind why we had that rule. And so kind of helped the community, the neighborhood to understand that, but I also understood that it was a huge barrier to them getting community participation. So it could help departments understand that, and we work together to find a solution. I think that's a lot of what I find my role being often, is that kind of go-between. The second example I will share with you is we had a citizen group come to us this winter to ask us to ban chemical use in our parks. And so that's a policy that from their perspective, was one department. It impacted the parks. but we found that it impacted many departments. So I brought a group together that includes both multiple departments and resident representatives, and we're co-creating this policy about pesticide use in parks now. And it's been a great opportunity, I think, for them to understand what goes into the daily management of our parks and open spaces, and for us to understand the roles. You know, our first reaction was, well, that's gonna take more staff time and we don't have it, so we can't do it. So then we started this conversation about the role of volunteers and how they could work in the spaces with us. So that's been a really exciting, often challenging process, I think, but really exciting. And then the last is a community grant program that I manage. The city council created a community grant program around sustainability because they said, you know, Sustainable Dubuque is a community initiative. It's not a city initiative. And we have one staff person, and if that one person is trying to manage all of it, it's not really sustainable. And so we do something similar, I think, to what the project you were talking about, where we put small grants out into the community to give neighborhood associations or nonprofits or church groups or whoever comes together around an idea of sustainability. We give them a little bit of seed funding, and then we help them with resources, whether it's helping them through a permitting process or bringing a group of people that we know are interested in the same topic together, you know, facilitation. And then we really try and help to build that leadership in the community. And what's really cool, that program's been going on for 3 years now. Many of those groups came to us with one idea. They wanted to start a community garden, or they wanted to start a bike lending library. And they did that project, and then they become these really great advocates for sustainability, and they're reaching out to us and to their neighbors and continuing to be engaged. So that's been kind of an ongoing project that's been a really exciting way that I get to work with a lot of different grassroots groups in the community.
That's great. So, I mean, I just want to take a moment to really appreciate all the amazing work and the breadth of work happening at this one table. Thanks everybody for coming and sharing and working within our funny time constraints. So this is really, so just as a, just so you all know, we had a chance to actually design this session with the people here, or most of the people here, and get their feedback on it and what it should look like. And I think that's a really important, we're trying to sort of role model the process of community engagement that we think is the most inclusive. And so we all designed this together. And that being said, one of the goals is for all of us in the room to listen deeply. So we're gonna do a fishbowl in a little bit where all of these folks can have a conversation among themselves around how can we better support their work and build on what they're already doing.